My ex-fiancé, who had a marriage contract with me, abandoned me at the engagement scene, eloped with his first love, and went abroad. 5 years later, he chose to return to the country alone. He thought I was still waiting for him. After all, everyone knew that I was head over heels in love with him. When he left me alone back then, I didn't cry or make a scene. After landing back in the country, he indeed saw my figure coming to pick him up, waving in his direction. He smiled, put down his luggage, and was about to come over and hug me. "Daddy." A man walking in front of him took a step ahead, caught the strange child running towards him, and by the way, hugged me, his fiancée, and kissed me. And when that man turned around, he saw his face. It was none other than his sworn enemy. When Lucas came back from a business trip, I had just picked Juliet up from school, so I took her to the airport to wait for him. There was a candy and dessert store in the terminal hall. When Juliet saw it, she pestered me, wanting to eat some. I bought her a little and threatened her with a smile, "If a kid eats too much candy, be careful of getting cavities." Juliet squinted her eyes and licked the candy. "I won't get cavities." She opened her mouth to show me her teeth, which were white and neat. "Mommy doesn't have cavities either. Mommy also loves to eat candy." Indeed, in this regard, Juliet was very much like me. We both loved sweets. A long time ago, I developed the habit of sucking on a piece of candy when my emotions fluctuated. I ate it when I was happy, and also when I was unhappy. And this habit was taught to me by my ex when we were together. Suddenly thinking of that person, I felt extremely annoyed. My ex was the partner arranged for me by my family for a marriage of convenience. 5 years ago, because of a call from another woman, he abandoned me at the engagement banquet. Eventually, he eloped and went abroad. Not only did he make me lose face that day, but I was also blamed by my family afterwards. I was even almost married off to a 50-year-old man with a bad reputation in bed because of this. If it weren't for my strong opposition and struggle, and fortunately meeting Lucas, perhaps at this moment, I would have been in hell. "Daddy is coming out." Juliet's cheer interrupted my thoughts. I shook my head, not wanting to think about these spoilsport things anymore. Most of the people at the exit had already left, leaving only a few. Lucas walked at the front, wearing a white shirt, with a tall and straight posture and outstanding appearance. I saw him at a glance. He looked at us tenderly, and calmly caught Juliet, who was shouting and throwing herself into his arms. This scene was rather warm. I smiled and walked forward, also hugging Lucas. Juliet was encircled in our arms. Lucas's eyes were passionate. He lowered his head and kissed my forehead. "I thought about you every day during my business trip." Hearing his confession and feeling the clear heartbeat in his chest with my ear, my heart melted completely. I simply raised my head and kissed him. "I missed you too." Juliet beside us saw this, covered her eyes shyly, and then tugged at my clothes. "Juliet also wants a kiss." Lucas let go of me, pinched Juliet's chubby cheek. "Mommy can only kiss Daddy. If you want a kiss, wait until you find a boyfriend in the future." "What nonsense are you talking to the child?" I glared at Lucas reproachfully. Lucas smiled triumphantly, holding Juliet in one hand and holding mine with the other. "Let's go home." On the way to the door, I felt as if I was being targeted by something. I felt uncomfortable all over. Even though I was walking in front of Lucas, that tangible gaze still followed me like a shadow. I looked back in confusion. People were coming and going in the hall, but everyone was in a hurry. I didn't notice anything. Lucas noticed my abnormality and asked me in a low voice. I shook my head and didn't answer. Probably it was just an illusion. But just a few steps out, the sound of the suitcase wheels rolling gradually came from behind, and then a deep male voice called out, "Luna." My stiff body turned around again. My eyes met a pair of calm eyes, with emotions so thick that they couldn't be dissolved. The person who came looked gloomy, as if he was ill. His complexion was very bad, and his body was so thin that it seemed as if a gust of wind could blow him down. My eyes scanned him inch by inch. Those eyes, that face, were all too familiar. I was completely stunned. Henry was back. This news caused a huge stir in the upper-class circles of Haicheng. For a while, everyone was talking about this matter. The happiest ones were, of course, the Henry family. Henry's grandfather arranged a grand welcome banquet, intending for Henry, who had been away from Haicheng for a long time, to make a grand comeback in a brand new manner. You went out and didn't contact anyone in the country. There was no news at all. If it weren't for seeing the interview with you in the foreign financial news, we almost thought something had happened to you. You won't leave again now that you're back this time, right? At the banquet, Henry was surrounded by people. In the past, he would surely have entertained these people with ease and jokes. But today, he was indifferent to what others said. Since Lucas and I entered the venue, his eyes had been following me, never leaving for a moment. Being stared at like this, I felt extremely uncomfortable, so I pulled Lucas to hide in the corner, not wanting to get anywhere near. I won't leave again. Henry replied indifferently, as if making some kind of oath. He walked over from the crowd and stood in front of me. Luna, I'm finally back. How have you been these years? The eyes of everyone in the room suddenly focused on us. Hearing the whispers of the onlookers, I was extremely embarrassed. I lowered my head to avoid his gaze, really not knowing how to respond. The next second, I felt a shadow in front of me. It was Lucas who stood in front of me. His figure was tall and his back was broad, just blocking Henry and the sight of the others. Luna is now my wife. I wonder what identity and stance Henry is using to ask this question. Henry looked skeptical. Luna is married? And to you? We got married 5 years ago. A sarcastic smile curled up on Lucas's lips. His tone was gentle, but every word was piercing. Luna is now my wife, and we have a child who is almost 4 years old. Didn't you see her at the airport before? Henry, don't blame Luna for this. At this moment, Henry's mother, who was watching from afar, couldn't sit still anymore. You suddenly went abroad, so the marriage contract with Luna's family was naturally void. The situation at that time. But Henry seemed completely unlistening. He firmly shook his head and reached out to pull Lucas away. I didn't give my consent. How could the marriage contract be void? What's more, she married Lucas. Luna has always known that I hate him. Luna, tell me, did he force you? I and Luna are a legally married couple protected by law. At this moment, Lucas's voice was so cold that it could turn into ice. He stepped forward and grabbed Henry's collar. I advise you to stop having any ulterior motives. Seeing that the atmosphere between the two was gradually becoming tense, I was worried that something might happen. I shook my head, indicating to Lucas to let go of Henry. After all, this was a banquet held in Henry's family mansion. When the marriage contract with Henry was still in effect, Henry's grandfather treated me very well. I couldn't let him see such a scene. Henry could absent himself from our engagement banquet for someone else back then, completely disregarding the face of the Luna family. It was obvious that he didn't have true feelings for me. At this moment, his inability to accept this was just due to habit. After all, I really wanted to marry him before, and my daily life had always revolved around him. Compared with the present, he must have a sense of gap. But if he had even the slightest concern for me, in the 5 years abroad, it would have been impossible for him not to know the news of my marriage. Lucas observed my expression. After confirming that I really wanted him to let go of Henry, he took a step back. However, his tightly clenched fists still showed his unease. I gave him a soothing smile, then looked at Henry again. I did marry Lucas, and we have a happy crystallization of our love. There is no such thing as him forcing me. In fact, from the day you were called away by Daphne's phone call and left me alone on the stage, There was no possibility between you and me anymore. In fact, I wasn't without resentment towards what happened 5 years ago. But as time passed, and I met someone as good as Lucas, even the biggest scars had gradually healed. At this moment, I didn't want to accuse Henry of anything, because I no longer cared about him at all. Henry's face instantly turned ashen, and a mist welled up in his affectionate eyes. He was still the same as before. When he was emotionally excited, he couldn't control his tears. He had cried his eyes out several times while watching a love movie. At that time, I followed behind him, thinking he was so cute like this, and always comforted him with a suppressed smile. But this time, I didn't want to do that anymore. Henry twitched the corners of his mouth, and his gaze gradually became firm. Before I could react, he hugged me tightly. He firmly clamped my arms and said in a deep voice by my ear, "I don't agree with you getting married, Luna. I will snatch you back." After saying this, Henry let go of me and walked away with a group of guests as if nothing had happened. But his actions still gave me a big shock, and I didn't come to my senses for a long time. Lucas also didn't react in time just now. At this moment, suppressing his anger, he looked at me with concern. "Are you okay?" He looked displeased and gently patted my arms as if dusting them off, as if in this way, he could erase the marks left by Henry's touch. Looking at his childish behavior, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. I composed myself and no longer thought about what Henry's last words meant. Anyway, it was just his pride and self-esteem acting up. Staying there any longer would be rather boring. After going upstairs to visit Henry's grandfather, I left the banquet with Lucas. Henry's grandfather's attitude was a bit strange. When we got home, I changed my shoes, sat on the sofa with a soft pillow to rest. Lucas was heating milk for me. He held the cup to feel the temperature, and when he thought it was appropriate, he handed it to me. Henry has been away from home for several years. The Henry family has already tacitly agreed that his younger brother will inherit the family business. Now that he's back, and Henry's grandfather has always liked this eldest grandson more, there will be a big fight over the inheritance right. I pondered for a moment, feeling that Henry's return wouldn't be that simple, but I couldn't figure it out clearly for a while. Lucas sat down next to me and stroked my hair, worried that he can't win the fight. I shook my head, obediently drank the milk, then leaned back and lay in his arms. "I'm just curious." He was on a famous foreign financial magazine before. It seems that his business startup was very successful. Now that he's back in the country, does he not want the business abroad anymore? Also, he went abroad with Daphne back then, but he came back alone. Lucas chuckled softly by my ear, making my earlobe turn red. He came back naturally because he no longer needs to take care of the company over there. As for that Daphne, she's very ambitious and not a simple person. Lucas was so evasive. My curiosity reached its peak. Just as I was about to pester him to tell me more, Edward came home with Juliet after picking her up from school. When Juliet saw me and Lucas sitting on the sofa, she rushed over like a little firecracker and insisted on squeezing in between us. "Mommy, Daddy, the teacher rewarded me with a little red flower today." She opened her palm to show off to us. "Juliet is so amazing." Lucas smiled, tore the little red flower from her hand, and stuck it on my face. "What reward do you want?" "Daddy will satisfy you. I want to travel to Egypt. Oliver went there last summer vacation, and I want to go too." Lucas pretended to think for a moment, then nodded seriously and started to discuss with Juliet seriously how to go to Egypt at that time. I watched him amuse our daughter into laughing heartily, and couldn't help but smile too. The bad memories that had emerged because of seeing Henry gradually faded away. Before, in order to maintain the marriage alliance with the Henry family, I had paid a lot, even my sincere feelings, but didn't get a good result. Fortunately, everything was in the past. For me, having a loving husband, a cute daughter, and all family members in good health, such a life was enough. But things are unpredictable. The experience 5 years ago that I thought was over, Henry just had to make me keep remembering it. For him, my betrayal was unforgivable. After marrying Lucas, I didn't want to idle at home. To fulfill my previous wish, I opened a flower shop of my own. Gradually, I made a bit of a name for myself and also started to undertake the flower arrangement design for large-scale events. One day, as usual, after sending Juliet to kindergarten, I went to the studio. Just as I opened the door, Henry walked in and arranged for his driver and assistant to guard outside, not allowing anyone to come in. The room full of fresh flowers was delicate and charming, further setting off Henry's gloomy and displeased face. Before I could get angry, he spoke. "I've been back in the country for so long. Why haven't you come to see me even once, not even sent me a message?" Henry's tone was full of accusation. I frowned, not understanding how he could say such things. I had been with Henry for several years because of the marriage contract. When did he ever care about me? After meeting Daphne, he even wished that I would never contact him so that he could have time to be with Daphne. Now there was no one else here. Who was he showing this look of me being sorry for him while he's still having feelings for me too? What on earth do you want to say? The feeling of being alone with Henry in the room was so strange. Coupled with his constant attempts to get closer to me, I couldn't help but retreat behind the counter. Seeing my retreating movement, Henry narrowed his eyes, and his expression was unpredictable. "I just want to know one thing. Luna, on the guest list of our engagement banquet back then, there was a person named Emma, the director of the Sun Welfare Institute. Why was she on the guest list?" I swallowed hard and said calmly, "It was a failed engagement banquet. You even fled the wedding on the spot. Why bother caring about these bygones?" Henry's breath hitched, and a trace of embarrassment flashed in his eyes. I pressed on. The invitation list of guests was drawn up by the elders of the Luna family and the Henry family. I had no right to interfere. Moreover, back then, you fled the wedding for Daphne without even bothering to inform me in advance so that I could be prepared. I've never blamed you, have I? Now, you're actually questioning me because of some inexplicable person. Henry, you can't be so shameless. Henry pursed his lips, lowered his eyes, and his voice trembled. Fleeing the wedding was indeed my fault. I'll go to the Luna family in person to apologize later. But Luna, this matter is really important to me. As far as I know, the welfare institutions regularly supported by the Luna family do not include the Sun Welfare Institute, and you shouldn't know Director Emma either. Why did you or the Luna family invite someone you had no connection with to our engagement banquet? My heart seemed to be grabbed, and I couldn't breathe for a moment. But Henry's interrogation continued. Are you really the eldest daughter of the Luna family? Under the counter, I clenched my hands tightly, my nails digging into the flesh. Henry's suspicion was rather absurd. I grew up in the Luna family. If I weren't Luna, and they weren't stupid, why would they recognize me? But I knew what Henry meant because I was indeed not the biological child of the Luna family. During my childhood, my parents sold me to human traffickers. After being rescued by the police, I lived in the Welfare Institute. The director of the Welfare Institute, Mama, was a very nice person. But she always believed that the Welfare Institute couldn't replace the role of parents and family. She told us that experiencing parental love and growing up carefree and happy was something every child in the world should have. I was adopted by the Luna family when I was 10 years old. The Luna family originally had a daughter, but she passed away before they adopted me. Luna's mother, my current mother, couldn't bear the blow and suffered from depression. To comfort her, I came to the Luna family. Later, as her depression gradually improved, she felt that I had taken the place of their biological daughter and disliked me no matter what. If it weren't for the sake of face, I might have been sent back to the Welfare Institute. But I'm still very grateful to them for giving me a stable and affluent life. So when there was a problem with the Luna family's business and they proposed a marriage alliance with the Henry family, asking me to please Henry, I agreed without hesitation. To make the marriage alliance progress smoothly, Henry became the center of my life. At that time, all my classmates and friends knew that Luna was someone who would come and go at Henry's beck and call. I lived like this for 4 years. Perhaps moved by my efforts, when the engagement was approaching, Henry said to me, "I will marry you." I believed him and waited for him full of anticipation on the engagement day. But what about him? He had already entered the venue, and it was only a matter of putting the engagement ring on me, yet he still abandoned me. Standing alone on the stage, listening to the whispering of the guests in the audience, that feeling of bitterness and shame was really unforgettable. And when I returned to the Luna family, because the marriage alliance failed, I was punished to kneel outside. The pattering drizzle fell on me, becoming an indelible darkness in my memory. When I was allowed to enter the house, I was shivering with cold. My parents were sitting on the sofa with gloomy faces. "The marriage alliance with the Henry family is off. Since you've been abandoned by Henry, no suitable family in the Haicheng circle will choose you. Marry to Nanching. Julian from Nanching just called and said he fell in love with you at first sight at today's engagement banquet. As long as you marry him, he's willing to invest in the Luna Group. Julian is a bit older, but he knows how to take care of people. You'll enjoy a good life there. Don't blame us for being heartless. It's your fault for not being able to hold on to Henry." In a blink of an eye, 5 years have passed. But that night, those cold words and the helplessness of waiting for my fate locked in the bedroom were like a through wound, forever remaining in my heart. If I hadn't met Lucas later and he hadn't firmly chosen me, perhaps Henry would have gone to Haicheng to see me. So Henry is the last person who deserves to know about my struggles and sincerity. My background is actually no longer a secret among the elders in the circle. Especially after marrying Lucas, my relationship with the Luna family has deteriorated. Several times, Luna's mother has publicly declared to others that I'm an ungrateful person who forgets their kindness of raising me as soon as I got with Lucas. Probably only the younger generation doesn't know about this yet. If he wants to find something against me, humiliate me by revealing my background, and at the same time elevate Daphne, then he's got the wrong idea. After all, I've never been ashamed of coming from a welfare institute. If the parents who sold their children don't reflect, what's there for the abandoned child to be inferior about? I was thinking aimlessly like this. The Henry family is wealthy and powerful. Even if Henry has to fight for power and profit after coming back, they're not to be trifled with. In the past, I would definitely have been afraid of him and not dared to resist him. But now that I'm married to Lucas, the Luna family can no longer control me, and Henry doesn't have that much influence on me either. It's just that I've been separated from Henry for so long that I forgot that, a long time ago, Henry was a self-centered person who never considered the consequences when doing things. Just like when he fled the wedding back then. Scrape, Henry quickly walked around to the back of the counter. In his haste, he knocked over a chair beside him. The chair legs rubbed against the ground, making a harsh sound. He tightly grasped my wrist and pulled me outside, forcefully leaving me no room to refuse. He dragged me to the door, and I felt a sharp pain in my wrist. "Come with me to the Luna family." I looked at him in disbelief. There were people coming and going outside, and I was familiar with the owners of the nearby stores. We often exchanged food with each other. As long as I shout, they will surely come to help. In broad daylight, he actually wants to take me away like this. Henry, are you crazy? What does it matter to him whether I'm a child of the Luna family or not? Is it worth him holding on to me like this and getting to the bottom of it? Because of my desperate struggle and the fact that there were porcelain vases and flower pots filled with flowers everywhere nearby, Henry had to let go. "Forget it," Henry said with a bitter smile, "whether you are or not, I won't let go. You chased after me before, but this time, it's my turn to pursue you." Henry stared at me intently, a faint smile on his face, and his eyes were so deeply infatuated that they seemed to be able to suck people in. "You liked me so much before. I don't believe you have no feelings for me at all. People can get divorced even if they're married. If Juliet is willing to follow you, I'll treat her as my own daughter. After you get divorced, we'll complete the engagement ceremony that we didn't finish back then." These words were so absurd that I felt like splitting his head open to see if it was filled with water. At first, I was eager to marry him, but he heartlessly abandoned me. Now he's having a change of heart and saying such inexplicable things. Suddenly, the ringtone of my phone interrupted the strange atmosphere at the scene. It was Juliet's kindergarten teacher. I answered the phone, and an anxious voice came from the other side. "Is this Juliet's mother? Juliet seems to have been kidnapped." Just after the first class in the morning, Edward came and said he wanted to take a day off for her. I saw her buying cakes at the nearby cake shop. When Edward went in to pay, a car suddenly pulled up beside them. When the car drove away, Juliet was gone. After hanging up the teacher's phone, I was in a state of panic. I didn't have the time to argue with Henry anymore. At his suggestion, I got into his car and we quickly drove towards the school. On the way to the school, I received a call from the butler, saying that Juliet had been sent back home. So we turned around and headed home. All the way, my mind was racing, thinking about who could have kidnapped Juliet. There have always been all kinds of rumors about power struggles in Lucas's family, and underhanded tricks are not uncommon. Before I married Lucas, there were some minor incidents. It was only after Lucas entered the company that his outstanding abilities and tough methods quelled those issues. The car stopped at the door. I rushed into the house. The moment I opened the door, I clearly saw the face of the woman in the living room, and I couldn't help but be astonished. That woman was Daphne, Henry's former sweetheart. At this moment, she was sitting leisurely on the sofa, while the butler next to her stood there helplessly. When he saw me come in, he seemed to see a savior. Juliet wasn't at home. I was so angry that I was shaking. "Where's Juliet? Don't you know that this is a society ruled by law? Kidnapping a child in broad daylight on the street? Why did you do this?" "Naturally, because you've done something to betray me." Daphne's voice was extremely soft. She laughed, laughing heartily. "And how can this be considered kidnapping? I just sent her to the Luna family to play for a while. She'll be back soon." Hearing that Juliet was at the Luna family, I forced myself to calm down. The anger in my heart subsided a little, and I motioned for the butler to go and confirm the news. "I believe I've never done anything to betray you. When you were working in a bar during your college years, I helped you. Back then, you made Henry flee the wedding. Over the years, I've never blamed you. I can even understand you." Daphne's face changed immediately. "You did help me, but I needed money. After that day, I still had to work in that bar. If you really wanted to help me, why were you so stingy with a little money? Your condescending sympathy is nothing but hypocrisy. And the reason you could sympathize with me was only because you were adopted by the Luna family. Back then, when the Luna family came to the Sun Welfare Institute to adopt a child, if I hadn't been sick, everything you enjoy now would have been mine. So Daphne was from the same welfare institute as me. Back then, my adoption was indeed by chance. The Luna family originally had a girl in mind named Mia. But on the day they came to the Welfare Institute to pick up the child, Mia was sick. Luna's father said it was inauspicious, so they chose again and adopted me. Mia, Daphne. She had changed her name, and her appearance had also changed as she grew up. No wonder I didn't recognize her. Thinking about what Daphne had just accused me of, I was silent for a long time. I can't control who the Luna family wants to adopt. But obviously, Daphne completely blamed me. "It doesn't matter if you don't admit it." She looked at me with eyes full of sarcasm and even a hint of hatred. Today is just an appetizer. We have plenty of time in the future. One day, you'll admit your mistake. Daphne left my house. Edward called the police. After the police came, they confirmed that Juliet had been sent to my nominal mother's family and that no serious consequences had occurred. So they gave Daphne a verbal warning and let her go. But the impact she brought that day was indelible. Her hatred for me was both inexplicable and intense. I started to worry about Juliet's safety all day long, even to the extent of asking Lucas to hire a bodyguard for her. After living in such an atmosphere for many days, I suddenly received a call from Daphne. After some investigation, I found out that after losing Henry, you managed to get with Lucas. Lucas is indeed much better than Henry. You can be considered as not falling into the same pit twice, she sneered. Then, her tone changed, but no matter what, your identity as Luna is fake. Does the Lucas family know that you're a fraud? She seemed to be particularly concerned about how I was living with the identity of Luna, as if my not living well could make the Luna family regret their choice back then. I didn't want to listen to her rambling and was about to hang up the phone. But as if she could see my actions, she called out to me and said with a smile, as if telling gossip, before Henry's engagement, he actually had feelings for you. Under normal circumstances, he wouldn't have fled the wedding. Do you know how I made him abandon you? I frowned, not understanding what she meant by bringing up this old story at this time. When you and Henry were rescued from the human traffickers by the police, you were sent to the Welfare Institute. He had been looking for you. I just used a little trick to make him mistake someone else for you. Now it seems that he has realized it and is probably regretting it. But even if you get divorced, he can't marry you. Guess again, how did I know about this between you two? Without giving the answer, Daphne hung up the phone with a laugh. Listening to the dial tone on the other end, my thoughts were drawn back to memories long ago. In a dim basement, two children who depended on each other were hungry and thirsty. They could only talk non-stop to ignore the discomfort of their bodies. The girl said, "My parents sold me to them. I don't have a home." The boy said, "Then when we're rescued, you can come and live with me. My home will be your home. Luna." The bedroom door was opened, and Lucas's gentle call brought me back to my senses. Looking at Lucas's concerned expression, my gaze gradually became firm. Whether Henry knows the truth or regrets it, it's all in the past. Lucas has been very busy these days. Even on the day Juliet was taken away by Daphne, he just came back once. After confirming Juliet's safety, he went back to the company. I thought he wouldn't be home until midnight today, but I didn't expect him to get off work so early. Listening to my complaints, Lucas was obedient and rubbed my shoulders, saying, "The company has been a bit chaotic recently. There's no way around it." As he spoke, he was being naughty, trying to undo the buttons of my collar. "Didn't you always worry that Daphne would do something to Juliet? I've arranged a long leave for her. Take her to Egypt for a trip tomorrow." After I whispered to remind him that I was on my period today, he let go reluctantly, smiled, rolled over and lay flat, saying, "Edward will go with you. Have a good time in Egypt. Come back after I deal with Daphne." I sat up and looked at him, asking, "Aren't you going with us?" I remembered the last time he joked with Juliet and promised that the whole family would go to Egypt. Lucas grabbed my hand and played with it in his palm, saying, "Silly wife, if I go too, who will keep an eye on Daphne? Besides, the company is really busy recently, and I can't leave." He gently kissed the palm of my hand, turned off the light, told me to go to bed early, and then left the bedroom for the study. I had a restless night's sleep. When I got up the next day, Lucas had already gone to work. Edward had packed the luggage for Juliet and me. When he saw me coming downstairs, he was about to call the driver. I felt an inexplicable sense of unease in my heart. I always felt that something bad would happen if I left home. I stopped Edward from making the call and asked, "Is there something going on in Lucas's family?" Edward's expression became hesitant, as if he wanted to say something but dared not. I assured him, just say it directly. I'm forcing you to tell me. I won't let Lucas blame you. Another young master has returned to the Lucas family, the butler said in a low voice. This wasn't anything strange. The current head of the Lucas family, my father-in-law, was a philanderer. He only had 2 legitimate children, Lucas and his sister, but his illegitimate children were too numerous to count. From time to time an illegitimate child would come to the door. This one is different. He's a very capable person. He started a successful business abroad and then returned to the country. Seeing that I didn't seem to care much, Edward's expression turned serious. General Manager Lucas likes him very much and has already arranged for him to enter the management directly. For some reason, I thought of what Daphne said about having plenty of time in the future. My throat felt dry, and I asked, what's the name of the company he had abroad? Chanting, which is Henry's company abroad. Now all the shares have been transferred to his name. It's said that his girlfriend is Daphne, Edward replied. And the day after he entered the company, young Master Lucas had a car accident on his way back. I was stunned for a moment and then suddenly looked towards the door. Suddenly, it started to rain heavily outside. Thunder kept flashing and rumbling, making the whole sky a pale white. The tempest was coming. Lucas had a car accident. From what Edward said, the car accident had happened several days ago, but I just found out now. My heart couldn't help but panic for a moment. Thinking that he seemed fine last night, I felt a bit more at ease. Why is Henry's company under someone else's name? Is Daphne's involvement in the power struggle between Lucas's brothers on purpose, or just a coincidence? My thoughts were in a mess. The more I thought about it, the more frightened I became. I definitely couldn't leave Lucas alone in Haicheng. I immediately decided not to go, and told the butler to put the luggage back. Young Master Lucas asked you to take Juliet away, because the opponent is using underhanded tricks. They don't seem to be law-abiding people, Edward said. He then asked calmly, if you stay in Haicheng, how can you ensure your and Juliet's safety? There will always be something that young Master Lucas can't take into account. I paused, turned around, and looked at Juliet, who was having breakfast in the dining room. She was mumbling about not eating the egg yolk while swallowing it with milk. Gradually, my heart settled down. I suddenly smiled at Edward and said, I'll entrust Juliet to someone I trust and ask her to take Juliet out of town. You go with them too. I'm Lucas's wife, and I'll stay to face the problems with him. After the failed marriage alliance with Henry, I was almost casually arranged to marry someone by the Luna family to gain benefits. It was Lucas who saved me from that difficult situation. After 5 years of relationship, I had already fallen in love with him. Moreover, he promised Juliet that the whole family would go on a trip. How could a father be absent? The so-called family should not be missing anyone. I took Edward to the Sun Welfare Institute. The director, Mama, was old and had retired, but I knew that as long as she had nothing important to do, she would basically go to the institute to help. After chatting with her briefly, I kissed Juliet, handed her to Edward's arms, gave a few instructions, and then took a taxi and left the Welfare Institute. I asked Edward. He said that on the day of Lucas's car accident, the brakes had a problem, and it was very likely that someone had tampered with them. Although I don't know how they did it, the cars at home can't be driven now. Back home, I went straight into the bedroom, rummaged through boxes and cabinets, and found what I wanted, a jade pendant. It was plain in style and had no luster. In terms of value, it might not even be as good as the box that held it. This was something given to me by Henry's grandfather. Suddenly, I thought of the day Henry fled the wedding all the guests had left, and the parents of the Luna family and the Henry family had long since disappeared. They probably thought it was embarrassing. I was alone in the hotel's dressing room, tears streaming down my face, but I didn't dare to cry out loud, for fear that if someone heard and spread the news, the Luna family's parents would scold me for embarrassing them. Henry's grandfather pushed the door open at that time and said, "Henry can't be influenced by love. You're not suitable for him. The matter between the Luna family and the Henry family ends here. Don't blame him, and don't blame this old man for being heartless." After that, he gave me the jade pendant and told me that it was his apology to me, and I could ask him for help with it in the future. At that time, I was very confused. Henry and I had a business-arranged marriage. He didn't like me at all. When did we ever have love? Now that I think about it, the experience of Henry and me being caught by human traffickers in our childhood was probably what Henry's grandfather told Daphne. He knew that Henry was looking for me and thought I would influence him, so he let Daphne use my experience to contact Henry on the day of the engagement banquet. If I hadn't married Lucas, I would have been locked up by the Luna family until I got married, and I would have married Julian from Nanching, who was on the Henry family's guest list. Understanding the cause and effect of this matter, I felt a little sad. Even though the marriage contract with Henry was void, I still regarded Henry's grandfather as a trustworthy elder. But the more I thought of this, the greater the probability that I could ask him to help Lucas. Although I don't know what my father-in-law is really thinking, it's obvious that he wants Lucas to compete with the illegitimate son. Lucas can't touch the official connections of the Lucas family. Not being able to mobilize the resources of the Lucas family gives the illegitimate son the possibility of using underhanded tricks. And the only one who can stop my father-in-law, Lucas's grandfather, is currently recuperating in the hospital and no one is allowed to visit him. Most likely, he's been kept in the dark about this matter. For a moment, Lucas's figure seemed to appear in front of my eyes. Not far away was the exploding car. He was standing there covered in blood, looking at me with sad eyes. I suddenly closed the box containing the jade pendant, put it in my bag, and walked towards the door. "Luna?" Henry looked at me in astonishment as I appeared at the old mansion of the Henry family. Then his expression turned to excitement. "Are you here to see me? Have you decided to divorce Lucas and be with me?" "I'm here to visit Grandpa Henry." I quietly dodged his hand that was reaching out to pull me. Now that I'm already at the Henry family's place, since Grandpa Henry doesn't want me to have contact with Henry, of course I'll do as he wishes. "Grandpa is upstairs. I'll take you to him," Henry said disappointedly when he saw me dodge him. "I heard that Lucas had a car accident a few days ago. It seems that it was his illegitimate younger brother who did it, but no evidence was found. He's in too much danger now. You might as well divorce him." I secretly rolled my eyes. Ever since Henry came back from abroad, he has become more and more abnormal. "I heard that the company you had abroad is no longer in your name. What happened?" I followed him upstairs, trying to find something to talk about. I was really curious about how Daphne managed to get Henry to transfer the company. Daphne blackmailed me with information, saying that only she knew the whereabouts of the girl who was rescued with me, Henry said gloomily. "I didn't know where you were and was worried that you weren't doing well. Since she wanted that company, I gave it to her." I was shocked by his words. Perhaps the Henry family had protected him too well. Henry really did whatever he wanted at any time without considering the consequences. This move of his gave the illegitimate son in the Lucas family the possibility of returning to the Lucas family and getting an immediate position in the Lucas group. There was no time to ask more questions. Henry led me to stop on the 3rd floor. Looking at the simple and heavy door in front of me, I knocked. After hearing a response from inside, I opened the door and walked in alone. "I guessed you would come to me recently." Inside the room, Grandpa Henry was lying on a deck chair on the balcony. He was very old, with gray hair. On normal days, he couldn't walk without a cane, but I knew that he was the center of power in the Henry family. Even though his son had taken over the Henry group for many years and Henry and his other grandchildren had already started working in the company, this fact remained unchanged. And this was the bargaining chip I sought for Lucas. The Lucas family won't let anything happen to Lucas. That outsider is just a whetstone chosen for him by the Lucas family. He will most likely be fine. Are you sure you want to waste the jade pendant on him? Grandpa Henry slowly sat up and looked at me with squinted eyes. If you use it this time, no one will help you if you encounter any problems in the future. Meeting his scrutinizing gaze, somehow, I felt very nervous, as if I had returned to the day when I was jilted at the wedding, staying alone in the dressing room, feeling extremely helpless. I touched the box in my pocket and nodded firmly. Many ants can kill an elephant. Who knows how many tricks they have in store for Lucas? If he doesn't get into trouble once or twice, it's impossible to be so lucky every time. I want him to be absolutely safe. Grandpa Henry blinked. Most importantly, the ant doesn't know that it's a whetstone, so it will choose to fight for its life. After all, in its perception, if it fights, it might be able to take over the nest and become the real heir of the Lucas family. His eyes turned to the window. You're really a good granddaughter-in-law. Grandpa Lucas is lucky. Grandpa Henry waved his hand at me, indicating that I should go out. I bowed to him, thanked him, and the moment I left the room, I vaguely heard his sigh, I'm starting to regret it. On the same day, Grandpa Henry went to the hospital. Under the pretext of visiting an old friend, he got permission from the Lucas family. The relationship between the Henry group and the Lucas group has never been good. The two old men were rivals when they were young. They had been competing for most of their lives for decades without a clear winner. They also agreed that their descendants should continue to compete. Therefore, Lucas and Henry had disliked each other since childhood. Grandpa Lucas had been in the hospital for some time and had never allowed anyone to visit, not even Lucas, his grandson. But he specifically instructed that when Grandpa Henry came, he should be let in. Because this meant that Grandpa Lucas was bowing to him. I don't know what the two of them talked about in the ward. When the door opened again, the two old men appeared at the hospital entrance together and then went back to their respective homes. Soon, Henry was sent abroad. Grandpa Henry said that he could only return when he got back the company he had lost. Lucas's father had a significant portion of his shares taken away and transferred to Lucas's name. The shareholding ratio between the father and son was reversed, and Lucas became the second largest shareholder of the company. The illegitimate son was given a sum of money and was kicked out of the Lucas family. In a fit of anger, Daphne tried to run Lucas over with her car, but was subdued by the bodyguards of the Lucas family who had already discovered her plan. All her painstaking efforts ended up in vain. When Lucas returned home, he was clearly still immersed in the huge change of his status. He put his face in front of me and asked, "Honey, am I not dreaming, right? Did Grandpa really make Dad retire early?" I looked at him with a gloomy face and didn't say anything for a long time. Only then did he stop his playful behavior and hug me, kissing my forehead. "I didn't mean to hide it from you. Dad wanted to test me, and as a son, how could I not accept the challenge? I already knew that everything would be fine. It was just a precaution." I choked and said, "Daphne even wanted to kill you by driving at the end." Lucas sighed and pressed my head into his arms, gently patting my back. "I'm fine, aren't I? During these days, I've had so much to tell you. When I married you, I really had ulterior motives. I was completely attracted by your beauty. But in the 5 years we've been married and living together, I've discovered your strengths every day. So I love you more and more. Luna, I want to tell you that you're excellent and there will be many people who like you. So don't take to heart the bad things the Luna family, Daphne, and Henry have done to you." The hidden thoughts in my heart were exposed, and hot tears welled up in my eyes. All the worries and self-blame of these days came out completely. The Luna family raised me strictly. I often reflected on myself, fearing that I might do something wrong. When Henry fled the wedding, I thought it was because I didn't work hard enough and couldn't make him like me. When Daphne kidnapped Juliet, and even when I learned that the chips of the Lucas family's illegitimate son came from Henry, I fell into deep self-blame, blaming myself for being adopted by the Luna family, which led to all this. Those dark and bad experiences were like evil spirits, constantly haunting me in my dreams. But at this moment, feeling the gentle touch on my back, I seemed to let go of some of the burden. I wiped away my tears, looked up at Lucas, and said, "Then tell me what my strengths are that made you fall in love with me?" He pretended to think, pondered for a while, and then said, "You're beautiful, gorgeous." I broke free from his embrace and pinched his face hard. He squinted his eyes and shouted loudly, "Ouch, ouch, ouch. Wife, are you trying to murder your husband?" I quickly let go of my hand, only to find that he was faking it again. So I pinched him once more, and we started to play around. The day before Henry went abroad, he called me and asked if I could see him off. Considering that I hadn't clearly clarified our relationship, after some hesitation, I agreed. Luke especially took half a day off to be my driver. The sun was especially strong that day, making everyone look listless. Henry wasn't in a good state either. Compared to the last time I saw him at the old mansion, he had lost a lot of weight, and there were faint scars on his arms. I was very curious. Who could beat the most arrogant young master of the Henry family? I stood by the car, not intending to accompany him in. Henry looked at me, with pain hidden between his brows. "I didn't expect you would really come to see me off. It seems you're determined to draw a clear line with me and not leave me any hope." Just as I was about to respond, he interrupted me. "Grandpa told me everything. It was he who deliberately asked Daphne to get close to me, which made me mistake someone else for you. I was so stupid and blind. Leaving you alone at the engagement banquet, you must have been so scared." His eyes were red-rimmed. He put his right hand into the pocket of his windbreaker and took out a jade pendant. It seemed that he pulled at the wound on his arm, and sweat oozed from his forehead in pain. It was the jade pendant that Grandpa Henry had given me before. This was the jade pendant I wore when we were in the basement as kids. You said you liked it very much, so I always wanted to find you and give it to you. Later, I accidentally lost it. I didn't expect Grandpa took it and gave it to you. Now it's back in my hands." A smile hung on his face, and there was a hint of pleading in his expression. I hesitated for a moment, glanced at the dark car window, and shook my head. Looking into Henry's disappointed eyes, I carefully chose my words. "I don't remember saying that. Let bygones be bygones." Henry twitched the corners of his mouth and finally forced a hideous smile. His eyes welled up with tears again. "Okay, let the past go. The car behind honked its horn, reminding us that we were blocking the way. Henry's last words hung in the air, unspoken. He shook his head with a bitter smile and watched me get into Lucas's car. The car started moving. In the rear view mirror, I saw his figure getting smaller and smaller until it gradually disappeared. And the road ahead widened from a dot, stretching out smoothly.